is all recording in progress. Floor is all yours, ready to go.
For me? All right.
Yes.
I'm like, okay. So I didn't, I'm having echo. And let me just do something here. Sorry, you guys. Let me just try this. All right, let me try this. All right, I say something, Eliza.
Hello.
All right, that's better. I know what it was. Well, hello, hello, my name is Sherry Smith. I am a descendant through both of my parents of the Mi'kmaq Nation of present-day Maine and the Canadian Maritime Provinces. And I am founder, president, and CEO of the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Eliza, for the kind invitation. And I'd like to share with you some information about our organization and the ways that we support tribes in a just transition to clean energy. We, the Alliance, I can tell you about when we start the presentation here. If you're ready to go, Eliza, I can share my screen.
Already.
All right, we're ready to go. Okay, let's do this. You're gonna see, you guys are gonna see like 40,000 things on my desktop. All right, can we see the presentation? Fabulous. So thank you again. We are the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy. We are an Indigenous-led 501c3 nonprofit organization. I founded the organization in 2016, and it has been named other things. We were Covenant Tribal Solar Initiative at the beginning, and then we were Indigenized Energy Initiative. Then we were Indigenous Energy Initiative because somebody else was using Indigenized. And now we're the Alliance for Tribal Clean Energy, and I vow to my staff we're never changing the name again. So we are a 75, actually, I think we're more like 80% now, Indigenous team of clean energy subject matter experts, practitioners, and support staff. And our mission is simple. It's to support the self-determined efforts of tribes, Native American tribes and Alaska Native villages to transition towards clean energy systems, to mitigate climate change, to diminish poverty, especially, energy poverty. And we'll talk a bit about what that is. Creating thriving economies with the use of clean energy technologies, and protecting Mother Earth for future generations. And we are currently supporting, I think we just hit the 60 tribe mark, 60 tribes with nearly 5 gigawatts of clean energy in development. And that is a tremendous impact on our planet. It's a tremendous impact on the tribes. We sort of triage the needs of the tribes. So, if one is at a stage that is more pressing, and like we support Hopi Nation, for example, and they just had a pretty public battle with FERC and Arizona Public Service to allow the interconnection of their proposed 400 megawatt project to the transmission grid. So that's like an emergent need all hands on deck thing. Will go there. Other tribes are at very early stages. So throughout those 60 or so tribes, they're at differing places. And it's important to know that we meet the tribes where they're at. We don't prescribe things. We will suggest things if asked, but our job is to support the self-determined efforts of tribes. So if a tribe wants to explore a particular mix of clean energy, we're here to support that. And we provide our experts to tribes at no cost. And I'll talk a little bit about that model in a bit. We are 100% philanthropically funded. We do not accept federal funding. We run 100% on philanthropy, which allows us to be nimble and flexible and to put pressure on our federal colleagues and to function at the same level as they do, rather than being functionaries and being employees of them. And plus, we get to be a little bit annoying sometimes and put pressure to do us right by the tribes that way. So I know that, we're interested in health and trying to tie as best I can for you I don't think it's any secret at this point that clean energy has largely positive health impacts. We are looking at the negative health impacts of critical minerals mining and things like that, for example, and trying to minimize the harm. By and large, clean energy is exponentially more or less harmful to human beings as fossil fuel extraction and development is. So is it perfect yet? No. Will it ever be? Doubtful, but science is getting us to a place where it's pretty darn good. And I can certainly ask any questions you might have about that. So some of the positive health impacts of clean energy are reduced air pollution. Clean energy sources like solar and wind power produce electricity without emitting harmful pollutants that can affect air quality. So by transitioning to clean energy, our tribal communities can reduce their exposure to pollutants such as particulate matter and nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxide, which are known to contribute to respiratory and cardiovascular disease. We also can attribute an improvement in water quality to the use of clean energy. Traditional energy sources like coal mining and oil drilling and gas fracking lead to water pollution, and clean energy projects have much smaller impacts on water quality and help to protect the water sources that are important for the health and well-being of our tribal members. A healthier living environment in general. So clean energy projects typically have lower environmental impacts compared to fossil fuel-based energy sources. And by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainable practices in general, clean energy really helps to mitigate climate change, which is important to, most tribal people will say that protecting the earth is a priority for them. There may be some that don't feel that way, but I think predominantly we do. And, climate change is linked to a range of health issues, as you all know. Heat-related illnesses, infectious diseases, food insecurity, all of that can be attributed to climate change. So it's an important aspect of why we do this. Employment opportunities. So the development of clean energy projects on tribal lands can create job opportunities for tribal members in the construction phase especially, but then also in the ongoing operations and maintenance. And the training opportunities that are available to tribal members during the construction phase can benefit the community in the way that you have clean energy experts that are being developed right at home and can go on to support tribal-owned solar businesses, for example, or work in the region in solar, especially solar or energy efficiency, because these are jobs that are abundant. And if they're not yet, as you build this infrastructure, the jobs become available. These are stable, well-paying jobs that are right in our own communities. They can't be outsourced, and they can contribute to better physical and mental health outcomes within the community. I can tell you firsthand, in my experience over the last better part of this decade, building solar demonstration projects in tribal communities, mostly in the Great Plains, where energy poverty is rampant, where lack of access to many of the resources that are more urban-centered tribal populations live. You all know the lack of hope that exists, and the trauma and the challenges and the struggles of our Native people, our young people especially. And when you bring even just a little solar project to the community, which a dozen or so tribal members get to be employed working on and be trained in a skill that they then take on, and bring it elsewhere and continue to either develop their own business or work in a local community for a local solar installer, or, there's so many different ways they can go. That hope that comes it is profound. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, or I'd rather not actually tell you how many times I've heard, more than I wish were the truth. Young people telling me that they were planning to commit suicide, and then we came to town, with this project, and they were employed, and they actually saw themselves as a productive member of society and can contribute in their own communities, and that they had the opportunity to have a job that didn't require a 4-year degree, and that they could be trained on in a couple of weeks and actually making a living wage of $25 an hour or more from the start, right? That hope that these projects bring is just, I cannot describe to you how impactful it is. So the employment opportunities, of course, and the community empowerment is also another, when we look at social determinants of health and the spirit within a community and the hope within a community, by investing in clean energy projects in a self-determined way, tribal communities gain greater control over their energy sources and reduce their reliance on external providers. And that's, I say it all the time, like, how can we be sovereign as tribal communities if we're dependent on outsiders for our energy? We can't, right? So this developing clean energy on tribal lands leads to this increased self-sufficiency and resilience and a sense of empowerment that, in the same way as it does on the individual, it has powerful positive mental effects on mental health and overall well-being for our tribal communities. I've seen it firsthand. It's a phenomenon that it makes total sense when you see it happening, and it's what really gives us the motivation when it gets hard to keep doing this work, because that's what this is all about. So how do we do what we do? We offer critical energy services to tribes through 4 key pillars of support, and we're built on a strong and deep foundation of Native American cultural values. I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I'm a descendant through both of my parents of the Mi'kmaq Nation. I think I did. But I didn't grow up on a res, I'm an East Coast Woodlands Ocean tribe, and we were colonized really early, and keeping our culture alive has been very difficult. And so we have on our team a mix of Native people, we have a Native people who kind of represent the different corners of our country, and so that they can more closely relate to the tribal culture in each of these areas of Turtle Island. So our head of tribal engagement, his name is David Harper. He's a Colorado River Tribes enrolled member. He's Mojave Indian. He's 61, but he's an elder. He's head of the Council of Elders for his tribe, and he leads our cultural team of liaisons. Who we have an East Coast liaison, Monica Paradise, who's up. She's a member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla up in Oregon, and Ramon Marquez, who is a Kickapoo tribal member living in Oklahoma. And we have other tribal liaisons that we work with who are actual tribal members of the partner tribes that we have in all of these regions. So it's really about understanding the culture of the tribe that we're working with, because as y'all know, we tribes, we're not a monolith, right? We're different. So how do we do this? Philanthropy makes this all possible. As I was saying earlier, we run 100% on philanthropic dollars. And our big donors are MacArthur Foundation, Energy Foundation, Hewlett Foundation, Rockefeller, Bill Gates Breakthrough Energy, etc. And all the way down to small individual donors that give us $10 a month, or they just want to be a part of this movement. So we're grateful to all our donors. We have about 40 team members now. I'm losing track, and this isn't possible without the foundations and the support of individuals who are generous and understand that this is critical, that tribes have the opportunity to take advantage of all of the things that are available in the form of federal funding right now. But beyond that, when and if that goes away, can step in and fill the gaps that we'll have remaining. We have gaps now, and I'll talk about that. But if we have to go to conventional financing of clean energy, it's certainly possible, and philanthropy will continue to support us. The Alliance and we're establishing $100 million pool of philanthropy, because I was tired of having to like beg and borrow and like for every tribe's needs, pre-development needs that aren't covered by federal or state funding. And so I finally said to the donors, look, we need a bunch of money here at our disposal that we can deploy rapidly to tribes when they need it, and for viable projects that our subject matter experts, who I'll talk about now, when they say it's time. Like, yes, that's a viable project. Yes, that will do right by the tribe. They will have revenue. They will it will cash flow, all of that good stuff. So that pool of philanthropy is hopefully going to be set up by June. So we offer these critical energy services through 4 pillars. And as I explained before, built on that strong foundation of Native American cultural values. Our pillars are technical assistance in project finance, energy policy and government relations, information resources and events, and education and workforce development. Why won't it let me for advanced? There we go. So just to meet quickly, our tribal engagement team, they're the first people that as a tribe will meet when they reach out to us for support. You'll meet Dave and Monica and Ramon, and they are amazing and at your disposal. So this is the team that you will meet first. The next team that you would meet is our technical assistance and project finance team, and they don't get their pictures up here. Sorry. So the Alliance, our team is of Native and non-Native expert practitioners, and we support tribes with capacity building and wraparound services for clean energy development, including these things and 10 dozen more. So energy planning, if your tribe hasn't done an energy plan yet, we will come in and work shoulder to shoulder with you to develop the plan that works for your tribe. We provide grant writing support. We have a team of expert grant writers that are skilled at winning federal grants. If you have your own grant writers, we can back them up and help them to tailor the grants so that they are more winning. We provide expertise in project finance, project design and engineering, project development. Facilitation of tribal control and project ownership is a huge one. Some tribes don't want to own their own projects, and some do, many do. And so whatever the tribe wants is the goal, and we will help facilitate project plans that achieve that goal. Transmission and interconnection is a huge one right now. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that regulates all the utilities that are responsible for the interconnections of solar and wind and other renewable projects to the grid is notoriously discriminatory against tribes. The new rules that the chairman of FERC stood on our podium at our equity summit last year and said that we're going to be advantageous and equitable for tribes are not. Essentially, what they've done in trying to clear the backlog of tire kicker projects out of the interconnection queue, the line of projects that's, you know, in line to get access to the grid, wherever the grid being in the area of the country that they are, they made a rule that basically says that you have to put up a ton of money to stay in the queue. In the case of the Hopi tribe, who we support right now, and it's a pretty public thing, so Chairman Navanyama is allowing me to talk about it as a case study. They needed $7.5 million to stay in that queue. And so we have gone to battle. We hire the attorneys to fight FERC about these things and to ask for waivers for tribes to say, no, we don't have balance sheets like these big companies that are in line. Like, that's not fair. That's discriminatory. So they haven't yet made an exception for tribes, which is what we're pushing for, is an exception that tribes have their own classification and that they don't require that amount of money to stay in the queue. But until then, what we're getting is extensions, which extensions might not seem like a big deal, but it allowed us to work on with and on behalf of the tribe to secure letters of credit for that money. There's a ton of issues here, and happy to talk with anybody about these kind of things. And basically, you know, the attorney that's supporting the tribes on this effort, his name is Larry Eisenstadt, and I call him the FERC whisperer. He's been battling FERC for 30 years. He said to them in a letter on behalf of Hopi that it was essentially like that the FERC hung a sign on their door that said tribes need not apply. And I'm not good with that. And so we are fighting, we'll fight till we get the equity that tribes deserve in our federal interconnection and transmission processes. So sorry for the tangent on that one, but it's very important. So tribal utility formation, again, this goes back to the sovereignty thing. If we're relying on an outsider and paying bills to outsiders, which are exorbitant, and as Native people, you know, especially in those Great Plains states and Southwest, we're paying double or more what non-Native people are paying for the same electrons down the same line. And people are dying of exposure to cold or heat in their own homes because they can't afford their electric bills of $700, $800, $1,000 a month. In Alaska, it's even worse. That's a health crisis, right? And so forming a tribe, forming its own utility is a way to take that, you know, control back and keep out the external bad actors that we're so reliant on at this moment in time. So we also have, and you might be wondering, you know, do you build all these projects? No, we don't. We used to when we were little and doing demonstration projects, but now we have a preferred provider program. And this is a first of its kind sort of matchmaking program. And the whole goal here is to facilitate respectful and reciprocal relationships between tribes and energy service provider allies in all of the services and skilled trades needed to support tribes in the development of clean energy until such time that we have enough tribally owned businesses that do this stuff. And we're helping to facilitate that on our education pillar. I'll talk about it in a little bit. So financial, legal, engineering, construction, and the supporting industries, we have over 100 preferred providers that have been vetted by our team of Native leaders and Native and non-Native energy subject matter experts to say, yes, they're technically qualified, but also that they are either have a reference from tribe or tribes that they've worked with in the past to say, yes, these are good guys and women, or if you haven't, as a company, worked with a tribe in the past, you come in as a provisional preferred provider and we'll babysit you. And we are the buffer between the tribe and these new companies to make sure that as best we can, that the tribe's best interests are protected through all phases of this planning and infrastructure development and minimize the chances of exploitation, which we're also unfortunately familiar with. So we facilitate equitable financial and contractual agreements between the preferred providers and the tribes. We don't guarantee things, we can't, but we do our best to say, yeah, we're comfortable introducing you to these folks and we can help you put, you know, language in place with the tribal attorney and the companies to make sure that you're covered as best as we know how. So the next policy pillar is energy policy and government relations. Excuse me, needed a sip. So the Alliance is advocating for equitable energy policy and utility practices. As I just explained, we're advocating for, you know, in the transmission side, we're advocating at the rate level to advocate for the little suppliers and the co-ops that are so nasty to us. That's going to take time. So in the meantime, we maintain close relationships with our federal and state regulators. We're advising them constantly. We are being invited to Treasury. We are being invited inside DOE to advise on equitable rulemaking and educate those that don't understand about the unique abilities and needs of tribal communities. We do have amazing Native professionals working in the Fed, but there's more often that it's not. And so we help to sort of explain that, you know, how our communities are so different and to eliminate or minimize anyway, the barriers that tribes are facing in bringing the benefits of clean energy, all of them, including electric bill savings, resilience, all the stuff we talked about earlier, to the communities. So we also partner with academic and research institutions to eliminate the hurdles helping to identify so that we can learn to eliminate the hurdles and disparities that are impeding this just transition to clean energy. We're working to build the capacity of tribal governments and communities to address the inherent problems and bring about the much needed changes in regulated utility markets, right? Because it's not going to be instant that all tribes have their own utility. Some might not even want to. If self-determination to your tribe looks like, yeah, we just want a good relationship and a fair relationship with our utility. We don't want to own a utility. That's cool. That's what we're here to help with as well. So education and workforce development. We are dedicated to supporting communities while addressing the skills gaps and workforce opportunities, and we help in many ways. We have a Tribal Energy Leaders Fellowship program that is just kicking off this year, and this one is designed it was going to be hosted at Arizona State University at the American Indian Policy Institute, but we're finding that their bandwidth might be a little saturated and we might not be hosting it there. So stay tuned for an update on that. But this program is designed to take the champion in your community, if there is one, who is the one doing all the clean energy work. Usually it's the air quality manager or the TIRO officer or a tribal council member or someone that is not trained in clean energy, who's learning it on the job and layering education on top of their inherent knowledge and their lived experience to validate their experience and actually get a certificate from an institution. And then the program goes on to actually offer a master's degree in tribal energy leadership. So everything from, clean energy 101, learning it, the theoretical side, rather than piecemeal as we tend to do when we learn things out, street smart way, all the way up to, contract negotiation and working with the feds and negotiating big project development deals. All of that will be included. So renewable energy training for tribal governments to acquaint governments, if they're not familiar with clean energy yet, of the variety of clean energy technologies available. We do a Solar 101 course for tribal councils all the time. And it's great because it dispels a lot of the misconceptions, and it also allows tribal leaders to ask questions in a non-judgmental way where they don't feel like, I don't want to ask this because shouldn't everybody on the planet know about this yet? No, many people don't. And so we will custom design, training where our tech team and our tribal engagement team will come to your tribal community and deliver for community members, for council, for both, whomever needs it. We have vocational and professional training programs associated with big initiatives like Solar for All, for example, to prepare tribal members for well-paying jobs, building clean energy projects right in our own communities. And then we have cultural diversity training for organizations and individuals seeking to engage with the tribes through that provider program. I should have mentioned, one of the requirements of a non-native tribal entity is that they go through a cultural acclimation program, which is understanding the history of Native American tribes and why we are the way we are, and how amazing and we are, and the challenges that we faced, and how you need to do things differently when you work with tribes. And so that is a requirement of all of these preferred providers. So lastly, we have we have events and information resources. So connecting tribal leaders with information and resources and, all of the providers, the subject matter experts in events is key. That face-to-face, one-on-one interaction you can't replace it. Like, I'm here at the Tribal Energy, Clean Energy Summit that DOE Office of Indian Energy hosts every year, our partners, and it's just, nothing replaces this. We're all together. And so we host 3 events a year. Well, we host many more than 3 events, but the 3 main ones are the Tribal Energy Equity Summit, which is actually, the first one was held in May of 2023. The next one is coming up next month, and I will put up a thing about that at the end. The first, and the Equity Summit is designed to focus on all of those barriers that still exist between the federal money and the reality of getting projects deployed. There's big gaps, right? So the Equity Summit talks about those gaps and how we're going to fill them. And it's a mix of tribal leaders and federal leaders and certain hand-selected supportive NGOs and companies. So the first ever Tribal Clean Energy Technology Symposium was held last September at RE+. RE+, for those of you in this industry, you might know it as formerly as SPI, Solar Power International. It's now the North America's longest running and largest clean energy convention. There were 41,000 people at the event in September. I have been on the planning committee for 19 years since it started. The original one, we had 250 people, I think, and now we're 41,000. It's crazy. So it's held in Las Vegas and Anaheim. It alternates. This year, it will be held in Anaheim. We also participate at 9 regional RE events that are held throughout the country. So you'll get a member of our tribal engagement team and our tech team at those. So if you can't come to the big one that's coming up in September, you can meet us at any of the regional events, and all of this information you can get through the website. So the first ever Tribal Clean Energy Finance Forum, that will be held with the DOE Loan Programs Office and Treasury and true to form, the feds haven't told us when they can do this, so it's probably going to be in the summer sometime, and stay tuned for that. And that's specifically talking about tribal clean energy finance, how it is now with IRA and related legislation, and how it will be later without IRA, because we know it's not forever, and how we are going to finance these projects once IRA is gone. We currently have a Clean Energy Quest webinar series. It's focused on, we just started it in January. It's multiple tracks, and they're all recorded. And it's focused on tribal clean energy considerations, all of this stuff. Clean energy project finance, utility formation, independent power producer, if your tribe wants to become that, transmission, interconnection, etc. There's information. If you sign up for our newsletters, you'll get the invites to these, and then you can access all the recordings as well. The website right now we're moving to a new website that is more robust. So sometimes some of this stuff you might not see up there right now because our webmasters are in the background doing their thing. So I've been talking a lot about this, the Tribal Energy Equity Summit, and it is being held this year, March 18th to the 21st at Muskogee River Spirit. This is free for 2 tribal leaders from each tribe to attend. The registration is free, and we offer a stipend, thanks to the generosity of our donors, of $1,000, up to $1,000 each for travel and lodging and expenses. Please don't miss this. If you can make it, I know it's coming up quick, but you can request your invitation code by emailing here questions@tribalenergyequitysummit.org, and just say, I'm so-and-so, I'm from this tribe, this is my position, I'd like to bring this person. And you can bring more people at a vastly reduced rate, but 2 tribal leaders, free registration, up to $1,000 each, travel stipend reimbursement. Don't miss this. We have Madam Treasurer of the United States, Chief Lynn Malerba, is one of our keynotes. We have the White House Committee on Indian Affairs as a keynote. We have Chase Ironeyes is doing a keynote. Lila June is doing a keynote, and a whole host of others. Our reception is going to be a nod to powwow spirit. Chansley Rush is emceeing. Leslie and Paul Cabote from Indigenous Collaboration are facilitating. If you go to the website, the tribalenergyequitysummit.org, you can download last year's proceedings and watch a little video about the event. This was profound. The tribal leaders are separated from the rest of the non-tribal folks at the summit for the better part of a day, and we work with Indigenous collaboration to facilitate discussions and come up with asks of the federal government. And statement of intent last year was very powerful. So would love to see all of you there. And lastly, the guiding principle of the organization. When I founded the org, I had in my head, in the face of so many people telling me that, oh no, you need to be only Native people in this organization. We can't have non-Native people in this organization. And I kept saying, that's not going to work right now. We're in a crisis. We need all of us. And my ancestors had this word, Eduaptamunk, which in Mi'kmaq, it means two-eyed seeing. And so the willingness to see from one eye the strengths of our indigenous wisdom and traditional environmental knowledge and all that great stuff from that side, and from the other eye, the strengths of Western knowledge and settler technology and resources. That's what we need right now, because we're in a crisis and it's going to take the rising tide to lift all the boats, and we need to work together. So thank you. Here's our contact info, our social media. Please reach out with your questions. We'd love to engage with you. And clean energy, again, is such a powerful tool to addressing the health of our nations. And so we're here to support your tribe's efforts, however those might look. So Walalia, thank you to all of you. And I will stop sharing. You're on mute. You're on mute, Eliza.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful presentation. I'm opening the floor up to see if anyone has any questions. If not, I have a few prepared questions. We'll just give it a few seconds. Well, I have a couple of questions here, if you don't mind. First question is, what would you say are the primary challenges faced by tribal nations in implementing renewable energy projects and transitioning away from fossil fuels?
It's the capacity. It's the need to build the capacity of the tribe to have it's really the four pillars, right? It's the technical, it's the policy, it's the education, or the three of those pillars that we address, which is, building the tribe's technical understanding and capacity to write grants and understanding what is necessary to procure that funding, but also having the wherewithal to understand and have an ally to develop energy plans with your tribal leadership and the community to say what's right for us. Do we want a massive solar farm, or do we want, individual rooftop and battery backup? Do we want community solar? Do we want a big wind farm? Do we want run-of-river hydro? Do we want geothermal? Like, most tribes don't have someone that can guide you through all that stuff. Some do, and it's getting better. There's more, but for now, those are the types of challenges that exist. It's capacity, and so that's what we're addressing.
What role does sovereignty play in the energy transition process for tribal nations, particularly in terms of decision making, resource management, and regulatory frameworks?
So I touched on a lot of that, right? It's how can we be sovereign when someone else is making our energy decisions for us and in control of our electrons, and polluting the planet and doing these things without consent. We are helping to support tribal self-determination and supporting the efforts of tribes to demand better consultation. At the Tribal Energy Equity Summit, there actually will be a whole bunch of panels talking about that, like what are the problems with consultation? How does the new executive order 144.11, or I can't remember the numbers that just came out, how does it address those disconnects and disregard of tribal sovereignty in the past, and how are we going to fix that? So these are the big challenging discussions that we're having now, moving towards a place where so our advisor, we have an advisor, Pilar Thomas. Many of you might know her. She's Paskayaki. She was one of the founders with Tracy LeBeau of the Office of Indian Energy. And she says to me all the time, there's no such thing as energy sovereignty, because there's always going to be some dependence on someone outside. And so call it self-determined energy. And I'm like, you know what, Pilar, I'd like to maintain that we can, there can be tribes that could be islanded and be unto themselves and have their own utilities and be completely in charge. But we're all entitled to our own vision of what that is. So
And my final question, how can or how should tribal governments collaborate with external partners, such as renewable energy developers or government agencies, to facilitate a smooth transition to suitable energy sources?
So don't go it alone is, you know, it's the very reason we exist. Reach out for help. Reach out to the Office of Indian Energy for technical assistance. Reach out to us for technical assistance and helping to make sure that the deal is as good as they say, and that the tribe's best interests are protected, that community benefits agreements are put in place, that not only just provide, you know, basic necessities of a big project, but extras. Like, you know, if we're gonna partner with you and you're gonna get, you know, 49% of this project, our goal is to have tribes own all of it, but that we're far from most tribes being able to do that right now, unless they're very wealthy tribes. But the point is, the community benefits agreements can be more than just, we agree not to exploit you. They can be, okay, developer, how about we need new streetlights or electric school buses, or we want you to fund certain programs within our schools. There's, you know, so reach out for help. Don't go it alone. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that I have, and I don't see any questions in the chat. So thank you so much for this presentation today. Oh, someone came
Can I
up.
ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Hi, ladies. That was a great presentation, by the way, Sherry. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I am just kind of newly seasoned person in Brownsfields for the Coeur d'Alene tribe up in Region 10, like the northern Idaho area.
Yeah.
And we are just starting to get some sites off of the ground. And I'm wondering, do you guys ever offer support in conjunction with brownfields? And if you do, in what form would that be? I mean, do you have ideas for like redevelopment funding or just planning?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So our head of technical assistance is Jennifer Ruda, and she's been a developer. You know, her background, her first degree was from Brown in geology, and then her engineering degree is from Dartmouth, and then she's studying for her PhD in Oxford in indigenous energy systems design, right? So she's the brain, and we have a whole cadre of subject matter experts that can help with brownfield redevelopment. And yeah, reach out to us at the email address to reach the tech team is tribes@tribalcleanenergy.org. I'll put that in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any questions? I'll give time for everyone to write down the email address in the chat as well and the survey information. But if we don't have any other questions, thank you again, Ms. Sherry. This was a great presentation. The webinar recording will be placed on National Indian Health Board's environmental health page and on our YouTube page as well, which will be linked on our page. Please fill out the evaluation so that in future webinars, we can have future topics, different types of speakers, and more information so that we can make a smoother process. And thank you so much for coming. If you don't have anything else, you guys are free to hop off.
Thank you, Eliza. You're an awesome facilitator. Thank you, everybody.